Hello everybody, and thank you for joining the session. My name is Geertjan. I'm heavily involved in the Foojay project, which we're going to learn a bit about in this session, and I'm from Azul. And I also am one of the coordinators of the Amsterdam Java user group. So if anyone in the call is ever in Amsterdam and wants to do a session at the Amsterdam JUG, please let me know. Frank.
Yes, hello. I'm Frank Delporte. I also work at Azul, but that's caused actually by writing for Foojay. So I was an author for the Foojay website, the website for the friends of OpenJDK. That's how I met Geertjan virtually, and we learned about each other's work. And that's how I actually joined Azul as being an author of Foojay.
And you're also involved in JUGs.
In the BJUG, so the same invitation for the speakers for the Belgian JUG.
Great. So we're going to tell you a bit about the background of this community project and the ideas behind it. And we'll take you on a tour of the site and also show you how you can start collaborating. So what you're seeing right now is the Friends of OpenJDK site. You see in the URL foojay.io, Foojay, and those letters, when you look at them, Foojay, the F is for friends, the first O is for of, the second O is for open, and then there is a J for JDK. And so really the project and the site should be called Fooj, Fooj, but we really want people to say Foojay because that just sounds better. And also with the J and the A and the Y, we have a bird. So a J is a kind of bird, and so it gives us a logo. And also Foo, of course, is quite significant in Java in particular, because often in demo programs, Foo is used as a placeholder, as a class or as a method or as a variable. You often use foo or bar. So really what Foojay is a place where you can fly in like a bird and use the site and the community around it as a placeholder for your own content. Because my time in the Java ecosystem goes back to Sun Microsystems, and at that time we had java.net, which was one central site with all the information around Java, with blogs and with an events calendar and with information around Java. And there was one single vendor of Java, Sun Microsystems, and there was one site, java.net. And Java moved forward very slowly, but at least things were clear. What's happened in the meantime, of course, is that there's been a lot of innovation in Java, and there's multiple releases happening all of the time. Multiple releases per year. Every quarter there's a new release. And so how do you keep track of that? And you know, you can get Java from Red Hat or from Oracle or from Amazon or from Azul or from Bellsoft, multiple different places you could get Java from. And each of those different organizations have their own sites talking about their own Java and telling you to download their Java and et cetera, but there isn't an overarching site anymore as there was with java.net. And this is what we're trying to do with Foojay. We want there to be, or there is a need across the ecosystem for there to be a central place for all information around Java, and not so much from the point of view of contributing to Java itself, because there is the OpenJDK site for that, and that is perfectly fine. But for the everyday user of Java, where do you go to find all the tips and tricks and tutorials and insights from the community? And so we have on Foojay, as the most important feature, something called Foojay Today, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now, which is every day 1 or 2 articles, sometimes 3, are published. And this has been the case for the past 3 years. So there's new content coming in all the time from the community, from well-known and less well-known contributors, collaborators, developers across the Java ecosystem and beyond, because this is a site dedicated to celebrating the OpenJDK as a whole, and Java is certainly a very large part of that, but there's of course also Kotlin and other languages and technologies that are not directly Java, that are also part of the OpenJDK ecosystem, and that you'll also find a lot of information about. Plus, even some excursions into, for example, Python and other technologies that are not directly OpenJDK, but that people in the Foojay community are playing with or experimenting with or learning about. So it's a place of sharing and bringing people together. And so one of those people, as Frank mentioned, is Frank himself. And there's also others that have found employment by means of being part of the community, found a job, joined in projects, learned about what other people are doing, and started working and collaborating with other people. So it's a networking site. But more than that, of course, there's a Slack channel, and there's potentially Discord that we're looking into, and there's a Twitter, and there's a Mastodon. But I think I'll give it over to Frank for a bit. Frank, tell us about what you find most interesting and valuable about Foojay.
Yes, let me just pick my own profile.
Yes.
As an example. I have several topics that I find interesting, and I wrote a book 4 years ago, and that's how I started creating content for Foojay by republishing some of my book content to Foojay. One way to promote my book, of course, but the other way to share the experiments I have been doing, especially then with Java on Raspberry Pi, and how other people can start using that. And as I just love to learn from other people how everything is evolving in this Java world, which is a very fast process nowadays, with the 6-month releases and all these new JEPs that are incoming in each new version, and all the tooling around is so fast evolving that there's so many hot topics at this moment. It's not only machine learning and AI. There are so many hot things going on in Java nowadays, that we even decided to have a podcast about this. So 1, 2, 3 times a month, I publish a podcast where we talk about a subject related to Java or OpenJDK. And there's also one per month where I talk about a JUG, a Java user group. So I think in all countries we have Java user groups. We have some countries we have a lot of them, like the Netherlands, like in the US. So I wanted to learn from people in the Java community what they find important, what they learned at an event, what was the most remarkable session, how being part of the Java community influenced their career. Because just like I found a new job by writing for Foojay, a lot of people find a new job in the Java world by joining a Java user group or a conference or talking to people or writing about what they learned from a specific problem, how they solved it, how they created a library. So the podcast is one way to talk about this. The podcasts are announced on the Foojay website, but if you go to your podcast app and subscribe to the Friends of OpenJDK, you can find it in I think all podcast apps. Then you're registered and you will be notified of a new session. And for instance, earlier this month, Geertjan and me were at JFOL, the conference in the Netherlands, in Ede. And during the day, we had interviews with, I think, more than 30 people during the day, all short interviews, and I'm now bundling them in different podcasts, and the first one was published this week. So again, if you want to learn about what is evolving in the Java world, this is a great way. If you're driving to work and you have some time so you can listen to a podcast, that's one way to learn about, for instance, what is happening in Java and all these new versions with these new releases. How is Java used in different sizes of companies? How is Java evolving for the cloud? Great talk with Grace Johnson. Then we have not only DevOps, which is now already existing for quite some time. We have new jobs which appear like FinOps and EcoOps, who take care of the cost of running a Java application, and not only the cost, but also the eco-friendliness. So that's a hot topic, something we talk about, and a lot more, security, sustainability. Those are just a few of the topics that we talk about in the podcast, and that you can read about on Foojay, of course. It's even on YouTube. So we try to spread the love for Java and OpenJDK in any way that we can. And Foojay, the website, foojay.io, is the starting point. But as Geertjan mentioned, we also have a Slack. So you can join our Slack. You find the link directly on the homepage. So we have a Slack where we communicate with other authors who participate in Foojay about content that's prepared, that's ready to be published. But we also talk about other subjects. We have JUG channels, we have FOSDEM that we're now talking about, conferences, so specific topics that have a channel in the Slack. That's also one way to talk with different people. Okay, maybe Geertjan, we can talk about the companies which are also partnering?
Yes. And let's talk about that, and let's also talk about the calendar. But let's start with the different organizations. So there is an advisory board of different organizations that you see listed here. So you can see as we scroll down, these are all well-known names in our industry: JFrog, Azul, Chronicle, Lightrun, Contrast, Security, Omnifish, Datadog, OpenValue, DataStax, Digma, Payara, Gluon, Sonatype, Gradle, Sneak, Hazelcast, Vaden, JetBrains, Yugabyte. If you go up a little bit to the Sneak one, for example, now take a look at that quote there. It's incredibly important for every ecosystem to have a core location for information to help grow the community and be an educational resource for all developers to use. Java has lacked this core space for many years, and I'm really excited to see Foojay's goals and direction. I believe Foojay has the potential to be the central resource for all Java developers. So this is kind of the motivation that drives people to be involved here, because different people in different organizations see Foojay as being an independent, vendor-neutral place where their technologies can be promoted in different ways. So it's not a marketing site, but really tutorials and quick starts and that kind of content and release notes. Feel free to publish them all over here. And what we do is the approach to having organizations be part of the board is a bit similar to the Apache model, where once there are people from a particular organization involved, we approach them and we say, hey, would you like to formalize that a little bit? We're getting all kinds of content from JetBrains, for example. So then we approach those people from JetBrains and we say, hey, would you like to have a quote on the site, be part of the advisory board? It's all free. There are periodic meetings with the other advisory board members. We do sometimes ask for, well, we're going to have an event, or we need swag, or we need t-shirts, can we join in and sponsor that together as the Foojay board? So on an ad hoc kind of basis, we do ask for sponsorship as needed, purely to cover the costs. But that's really the board. And so if you are from an organization, whatever it is, maybe you're not a technology vendor, but maybe you're an organization like OpenValue, for example, which is not a technology vendor, but is a provider of great developers to numerous organizations. So it's basically a consultancy organization. There too, there's a lot of involvement in Foojay. And in particular, what OpenValue is doing is creating, or OpenValue is leading a project on the Foojay platform, within the Foojay community, around certification. So if you've ever done the Oracle Java certification program, you will know that at the end of that Java certification by Oracle, you will have learned a lot about the APIs, and you will have learned to understand how to use them, etc., etc. But you will not have proven at all that you are a great Java programmer. And so what we want to do, and what Open Value in particular wants to do, and is leading, is to put together a platform, a virtual environment, which you would log into, and then you pick your IDE, and then you get tasks. And those tasks are code-oriented activities provided by the Foojay community, and then also evaluated by the Foojay community. And then if you would be a Foojay certified Java developer, that would actually mean something. That would mean that you've actually done coding exercises, that you've actually coded, that you've had maybe some deadlines and some within the next 10 minutes, what is the answer to this, and type this code, and actual coding exercises. That will have more value, and so that's one of the projects that we're driving through Foojay. So if you have some kind of community-oriented activity, or if you've always thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we in the OpenJDK ecosystem had this, or if we had that, then the Foojay community is a great place to launch that idea and to discuss that in the Slack. For example, one idea is, wouldn't it be nice if when you are looking for a programming job, whether you would know that the company that you're applying for a function, that they would have some kind of fair trademark around open source, so that you would know that if you would join that particular company, you would get dedicated time to work on open source projects that company is using. Now, if we were to have some kind of fair trademark, similar to what is used on coffee or on chocolates, but then for companies, by the developers in those companies themselves, then you as a developer, as you go from one company to the next looking for a place to work, you would know whether the company is a open source fair trade type organization. So that is also something that we're discussing within the Foojay community. So these kinds of broader ecosystem-wide initiatives you can really launch and discuss and collaborate around within Foojay, by publishing articles around it, by going to the Slack or to the Discord that we're investigating, or we have all these different social media mechanisms to bring people together and to have these kinds of discussions. So back to Frank.
One thing I want to show you, you mentioned
yes.
it briefly, is like Geertjan is saying, we are inviting people to contribute their content, their ID to Foojay. And like I said, I wrote a book, and in the book there's a very short, quick start tutorial for Java, for people who are new to Java. And I got the opportunity to add this content again to Foojay. So in this new section within the website, you have start from scratch course on how to write Java code. So I added some videos, I added some content. We have an inline editor here, so you can execute your Java code within the browser. So we have already a lot of tools available to spread your content, your message through Foojay. Like, for instance, we also have direct links to the command line tools, which is actually a contribution by Chris who codes, Chris Newland. So he already has this website where command line arguments for Java are listed, but by also integrating it in Foojay, we spread the same knowledge through an extra channel. And the same goes, for instance, I think the Jux or another one, where can I find Java user groups? Also, they are listed here, but that's content that's already available on other places, but we want to really combine it here and provide it to everyone that you can find it. And
let's also take a look at the calendar. I'd like to briefly talk about the Foojay calendar. So if you go to foojay.io/calendar, and you go to you see that there's a nice calendar view as well. And also, by the way, you're looking at the dark mode right now. We can also switch to the light mode if anyone prefers that, but let's go to the dark because it's a little bit clearer here. So what you see here are events, any events in the OpenJDK ecosystem. So Frank, click on a cell, any cell there, one of the empty ones, for example. Click on an empty, yeah. So without being logged in, anyone can go and click on a cell and put in their event. So you give it a name, you give it a date, you provide some description. And so you're not logged in, you've not actually authenticated or anything. And when you click save, that event will land in the moderation queue within Foojay. And then it is evaluated, or you just check, is it correct or whatever, and then we publish it. So to add content to the events calendar requires nothing beyond going to the calendar, clicking on the cell where you want your event to appear, providing the information, and it ends up in the moderation queue. And even better, many jugs in particular, of course, have meetup.com pages. And what we can do is we can register your meetup.com page inside Foojay, and then periodically, either every day or every week, automatically using the Meetup API, that registered meetup will be polled and events will be pulled in to Foojay automatically. So if you are part of a JUG or some other organization that has its content on meetup.com, you simply go to the Slack and you say, hey, here is our meetup URL. We put that into the Foojay WordPress, it's simply a WordPress site, in the right place. And then automatically that content, those events from your meetup will land in the calendar without you having to do anything. So it's really, everything is in place for this to be the central place to go to find all the information about all the events going on in the OpenJDK ecosystem.
And then maybe next topic, which is a nice one, is the Disco API.
Yes.
So we're not in a live room, so I cannot ask you to raise your hands, but who is using SDKman? I imagine that a lot of people now raise their hand. SDKman is one of those tools that enable you to switch fast between Java versions. But to be able to do that, SDKman needs to know where all these versions are and which are available and where you can find them, where you can download them. And actually, what many people don't know is that the Disco API is actually the source providing the data used by SDKman. But it's not only SDKman. It's also a JReleaser, JBang, the Gradle toolchain, Paketo build packs. So all these tools ask to the Disco API which are the versions which are currently available of Java. And this Disco API is actually a project from Foojay, and our colleague Gerrit Grunwald has been working on this for quite some time, and he's also keeping this up to date. You can find it on GitHub. Most part of the code is here. He has this fancy logo, of course, because it's Gerrit. And the Disco API checks all these websites for new versions and new builds of OpenJDK. So the 3-monthly release, or the security updates, the new general availability releases. So all these are requested from all these different suppliers, distributors, and provided through the Disco API in via REST endpoints. So we have some Swagger images where you can, Swagger tools where you can download these. So all this is controlled or provided by the Disco API, which is a Foojay project. So if you're looking for an automated way to find certain versions or distributions of OpenJDK, of the runtime, you can either use SDKman or directly use this this tool here, the Disco API and the REST endpoints. So
and again, this is an example of what we want to achieve with Foojay, because the Foojay website you can see as a place where we want to bring together release notes from different technologies and articles and tutorials from different technologies and information about the different OpenJDK distributions. We want to unite this fragmented ecosystem. And what the Disco API does is that. And Disco is short for Universal OpenJDK Discovery API. So that's the full name, Universal OpenJDK Discovery API. Now each of the OpenJDKs, or many of them, have an API. So via an API, you can download Azure's OpenJDK. You can do that with Amazon, with a number of the different OpenJDK distributions. Other ones don't have an API, but you can get them from GitHub. And each of them have a different mechanism and a different API. And with Disco, what we have is a meta layer on top of all of those different mechanisms for programmatically getting hold of an OpenJDK. So if you're creating a tool, for example, you're creating IntelliJ, for example, or you're creating Gradle, and this is what Gradle is doing. So Gradle, instead of polling or reaching out programmatically to each of the different OpenJDK distributions, they're able to just use Foojay and to specify, if they need, which distribution they want from which vendor and which release. So it's a unifying layer across the OpenJDK distributions, exactly as Foojay is a unifying layer across the information in the OpenJDK space.
I'm just going through the distributions. The list is long. So there are many runtimes you can find with OpenJDK, and they're all listed here through the Disco API. Okay. What's another tool we can show is the Mastodon.
Yes.
There's a lot of things we could tell about Twitter/X. We're not going to dive into that topic. But if you're looking for an alternative way to follow people from the OpenJDK community, and if you want to create an account for yourself on Mastodon and you have not done that yet, Foojay.social is a Mastodon service paid and hosted by, paid by Foojay and hosted by Toot.io. And it's a place where we have now, I think, about 100 active members from the OpenJDK community, Java community, who have a Foojay account, but it can also be another one, we don't mind. But it's one of those Mastodon accounts you can follow. So Foojay is, of course, on our own Mastodon instance. But if you're looking for a place on Mastodon, then consider Foojay.social as one of those options. Okay. I'm looking at my tabs that I opened here, Geertjan. What we also should talk about is the redesign of the homepage.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Yep. So the idea behind Foojay has changed a bit during the years, and what has proven to be the most valuable source for a lot of people is the content. There is amazing, great content on Foojay, and a lot of articles are being added each day, at least one, but we have days with 3 or 4 articles, I think, Geertjan. So we are looking for a way to put even more focus on this content. And the team, Jelk, behind the WordPress site, so it's actually a WordPress site which is heavily modified, is working on a new homepage. And these are the designs. We cannot show it yet live, but you see that we're going from 2 articles listed on the homepage to a lot more. Also some trending topics, and then dividing the other sections a bit more. Also put some focus on the podcast, on the categories, the calendar again. So you see that Foojay, the homepage, can really be a big source of all Java-related knowledge. So this is the main part that will be on top, above the line, as they call it. But we also have other sections and a light and a dark theme again. I don't know if you have a schedule for this, Geertjan.
It will be published in the next month or 2 for sure. Yeah.
And maybe we can show also the people who want to join Foojay. So if you...
Yes. That's really our final topic, I think. How to get involved. So there's a page on the front page. If you go to the Foojay.io front page, you'll see on the right-hand side there's a link that gives you all the information, how to submit your next article on Foojay. It tells you to go to the Slack channel and to say, hello, I'd like to be involved, and here is some of my content as an example. Then you get a user and password to the WordPress. You put your content in the queue, and every Monday morning we take a look at what is in the queue, and we propose a schedule. So together as a community, we collaborate around the schedule. We discuss that in the Slack channel every Monday morning, and then we publish based on that schedule. Sometimes people publish their own articles based on the schedule, and sometimes I just go in and publish it myself. It's up to however we want to do it. And as you can see, it's simply a WordPress site, a long list of articles, and we take a look at what's in the drafts. And then we propose a schedule based on what's available. So typically, whatever you put in the queue this week will be published next week. That's typically what we do. And if you have release notes, things you want to have published immediately out of cycle, we can do that too. We can publish as quickly as you would personally like as well.
And you see, we have a lot of drafts, but some of them are old, not maintained, or not ready yet. So Geertjan is the person who is controlling this, and you communicate with him to check when your content could be published.
And also, if you want to be involved in this yourself, if you would love to be a moderator, that's also completely possible. Your level of involvement is completely up to you. And also, we want to have this as a platform to bring new people into the ecosystem as well. Especially since we started this more or less around Corona time, where people were not going to conferences and not so much able to network. This kind of platform enables us to fill that gap as a community, but also in general, it's a way to get people started and get people established and well-known, because many people involved here are Java champions and so on, but many people here are newbies to Java, so it's really for everybody who wants to be involved.
And it's really easy. It's a WordPress site. That means that you can work with text and like you're used to work with WordPress if you've done that before, but you can also use AsciiDoc or Markdown. So if you already have content, you can just copy paste it. And this is also a great trick. If you already have good Java related content, you can republish it on Foojay. And we have here a system of canonical links. I don't know if you heard about that before, but that means that, where is it again? Advanced. So like this article that I published on Foojay was original on my personal blog. If you add the canonical link here on Foojay, for search machines, they will see this page, they will find this page and then visit your site, because your site was the original source for this article. So your site will be higher ranked and will be more indexed just by having your content on Foojay. So having your content on Foojay can also be a way to promote your already existing Java related content, which is already published on another site. So Foojay definitely don't want to be the source for original new posts. It just wants to have all the best Java content that exists. Either it's new, either it was already published, but it should be all combined here on Foojay. And we have some tools to allow you to do that. And also on each article, you can have related articles, you can have popular posts. So if you look at such an article then being published on Foojay, this is not yet published, so we're going to the preview. Then you see that popular posts which are related are listed. And at the bottom of the article, you will find related posts. Where are they here? Related articles. So you can link it to other articles you've written before by yourself or by others, and make sure that people can continue browsing to related data and keep learning about topics which are of interest for people. And you see Java code can be nicely formatted. We can have image galleries. We have video which can be integrated. So all the tools that you know from Oracle, from WordPress, can be added here and can be used to generate content. Okay. I think, Geertjan, we had most of the content we wanted to talk about. What do you think?
Yes, I think we've discussed everything. And everyone is invited to be involved. The Slack is available. Go to the homepage and you'll see everything that you need to get started.
Yeah, so this section here, if you go to the homepage of Foojay, here you have a link to the Slack. You have a link to the article describing how to write your own content. But yeah, I just invite you to browse around on the website, read. You have a search engine. The search engine, let's for instance have release notes. If you look for release notes, you will see that we have blog posts about release notes, but we also have version history. So you can find direct links to several types of articles here, all through the search engine. I see that Geertjan is moving with his computer.
Yes, I almost had no battery left, but fixed that problem.
Luckily, we are two speakers. Okay, I don't know if there are questions. I didn't see any in the chat yet, but I think it's all clear as
Yes.
visit the website and learn about what the Friends of OpenJDK is providing to you.
And we look forward to seeing you join in on the Slack or on the homepage, providing new content. Everyone is really welcome.